This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Well, we hope to get a lot accomplished this week, but we have two reasons why we're going to have a shorter work week. One is the heat. It's going to get close to and over 100 degrees some of the days this week. And second, we have a holiday, the U.S. holiday of the 4th of July.
So we're going to take a few days off, not too many, and we'll still get plenty of work done. But this week, we are going to get started on that bridge deck. We've been working hard towards getting there, and now we're there. Because we have a goal to get not only the bridge decks and sole for the cabin and salon in, but the soles into the hulls as well. Because we've got a big party coming up for all of our crew and patrons, which I'll talk more about next week. But we want to get working hard on that bridge deck because we've got to get it in here so that we can walk around in the boat soon. So let's get started. Exciting, because we're getting to start on the last major structure that we ever have to build for this boat. Now, there's a lot of little structures, but there's only one major structure left, which is the bridge deck. And we're going to get started on that today. The first thing we have to do is that we have to put some sort of, we'll call them extensions onto this thing, because the Advanced Material Solutions that made the foam has a max size panel, which is right here. This is as large a panel as they make. But our boat happens to be this much longer. So there's a, foot and a half here of add-on that has to get put on with a biscuit. It's also not wide enough for our boat. For about the same amount, there's probably about a foot, a little more than a foot extension that goes all the way up the side that we have to put on as well. So we could have done this ahead of time, but the problem was with this big panel, where do you put it to put this extension on that's flat in this lot? It's not like we have a big, huge flat piece of cement to do this on. So we have to do it up on these tables, and of course we leveled these tables with these platform things here. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect across the back here with some 2x4s to create a level flat surface back here to glue this on to keep this from being warped in any way. And we're going to slide this over this direction, the whole big one, before we start, and we're going to create a platform all the way down the side to hold that side piece while it gets biscuited and epoxied on. So that's what our goals of today are, is to extend the side, extend the end of this bridge deck piece. We have to route the foam out along this edge and the one there so we can put these biscuits on. Sweet, that is a clean edge on both sides. Perfect. Time to do the big long one. We sort of pre-tested on the end, but now I gotta do the big one. All the way down. Right, we're halfway through because we have to do the other side that goes on here. So let me get that set up and I'll do those as well. This is our add-on piece that goes right here. And of course, first thing we got to do is pull fuel ply. And then we'll have to run the router down the edge on both of this and route this one and clean up, and we're ready to start putting the biscuits in. Pull out the board. No. Okay, routing is done. So the long one is in, the biscuit is in and curing, and we're going to do the short one now. On the end here. So we've cleaned all of this with alcohol, cleaned this one as well. Now we just have to get epoxy inside of both these troughs and coat this whole biscuit. Put it into one side, flip this over, shove it on. There you go. And if you're playing the new drinking game, if Brian's mixing epoxy and I say Brian's mixing epoxy, have a drink. Brian's mixing epoxy. What you drink is completely up to you. We wanted to get this whole thing glued up before lunch today because that'll give it a chance to set up while we go have lunch. And so that one took a little longer because it was bowing than we anticipated. So it's actually lunchtime right this second, but we're still going to get this one done. We'll just be a little late for lunch. But this one shouldn't take too long. It's just this one long biscuit and this one short one right here. So that's all we need to do. So we should be able to do this in one batch. Here it goes.
Out of the sun.
Out of the sun, out of the sun. That's our constant cry with epoxy. Keep it out of the sun. Now today we're using cyclamen because it's so hot. And you might want to get some plastic, 3 of them, because these are going to get epoxy on them. We're going to have to put some plastic underneath of these boards, otherwise we're going to glue down to the boards. That's no fun. These work perfectly for applying into the trough because they squeeze to exactly the right size. And we used brushes early on, when this is much faster and easier. In this case, because we're all doing this in one shot, I'm just going to do up both troughs at once, and then the whole biscuit, and shove it together. Okay. Now the biscuit buttering. They say buttering because it's, I'm hungry because it's lunchtime. This will all be food things now. Roll. Oh, cinnamon roll. Rotate like a chicken rotisserie. All right, flip it over like a pancake. Other side. Almost ready for the insertion portion. Okay. You're even with your end, right? Good. Looks pretty good. All right. In. You know what that means? Lunchtime. So now you can see the full size of the sole. But this isn't the full width of the sole once it's up. This is just the bridge deck, which comes up to here. But the actual sole will continue with another piece over here. So the salon and cockpit are more like this wide out to here. But this bridge deck comes up here, and then we extend the sole over on both sides. So it even gets wider than this for the living space in there. You can tell that because, let's see, which side is the table on? The table's over there, which means that the table begins here and the seating goes way back. So this is a lot wider living space than just this bridge deck portion of the Sol. So for the last hour or so, Brian and I have been spelunking inside the orange shipping container and white trailer to pull out 112 pieces that make up this bridge deck. And so we found them all. And when we first pulled them out, we were short 4 pieces, but we checked off all the different ones and we found out which 4 were missing. It wasn't hard to find them once we knew what the numbers were. And but we got them all. All 112 pieces are here. And this is what's going to construct our bridge deck. And so that will be starting tomorrow. We just wanted to get it all out so that when we come in tomorrow, this is all glued already, ready to go, and it'll be set up by tomorrow. And we can start laying all this thing out into its grid because we've got them all out here. Then will come a lot of work as we have to glass the corners and cove the inside. Lots of work to go there, but at least now we're set to go. We're beginning today on our bridge deck, and now that the sides were glued on yesterday and we've sourced all the pieces out of the containers, today we're going to pull the peel ply on 112 different pieces. Oh boy. Pulling peel ply, one of our favorite things. And then we have to write the name on each one after we pull the peel ply because we lose it when we pull the peel ply off. And then we're going to sort by type onto the planks on either side of here because we have to clear the top of this because we have the next thing after we sort and pull the peel ply is we have to coat this whole top with plastic before we build the grid on top of webs because when we cove it we don't want it to stick. These are going to be the dummy coves. That's why this is all upside down. Getting down to the last few. Nick's been over on that side working and Brian over there and me, and so we've been knocking these things out. Nick's back from his travels abroad. He's been over to Morocco, over to Spain, and over to Greece. We immediately put him to work doing peel ply pulling because that's what we're doing today. And a couple large ones left here, maybe 4 more small ones, and then all 112 pieces will be finished. All right, we are close to finish. Let's see, these are done. Those are done. So we're just down to those 2 big ones right there and we're finished. Oh, good 3 hours of work to get our peel ply off of all 112 pieces. We'll call it 110 because we haven't done those 2. And I'm glad to have that behind us. It's all over here sorted by name so that now when we go to assemble on top of here, we can just select the one we want next. And some are over there as well. This is the secret to my whole plan. This piece of plastic we're putting onto this flooring portion, the upside down floor. This is so that our coves don't stick, so that we can create all the dummy coves on here. So we had to put plastic down on everything, but that will work. As soon as this whole plastic is all taped down, we can start constructing the actual webbing on top of here. And we'll get the entire web constructed and glued together on here. Once it's all glued together, but not to the bottom, then we can put the coves in on it. But first thing we'll do is glue all of the different 112 pieces together on top of here. Good morning. It's sort of the end of the week. It's the end of the week as far as working on the boat because tomorrow is our big holiday in the United States, and so we're taking a few days off for the holidays. But we want to get a long ways today, and that means that we got to get started actually gluing together the whole Bridgedeck webbing, which you're starting to see laid out right here. And we're going to be using clamps, all these squares that will hold these in the correct position, kind of like this right here. But we're going to start out here at the end because we need to get this one matched up perfectly where the curve is right here. And so as long as that curve's matched there, we know that's the right distance to start for this first board to go in. So we're going to glue this one in to get us our starting point. And then really doesn't require any measuring because as we go, we get this in the right position here. The next one gives us its distance here because we know that this one now mounts up to there. So these give us all our distances as long as we start correctly right there. So that's the plan, and all we're doing today is just putting a little bit of glue on the ends to glue them together. We're not coving and tabbing or anything like that. We just want to get them tacked down together in the right shape before we bother with any strengthening of coves and tabbing. And we're going to go all the way down to where Brian is down there, mixing epoxy for me right now, and on this one line of boards, because that way we can reach to do the work here. Then we'll shift the entire structure over about a foot or two, and that'll bring the next one onto the table here, and we can work setting up the next set of blocks right here on the edge. Then we move to the other side over there. We'll just shift the whole thing, because remember, we're not actually mounting it to the bottom here. That's why there's plastic on there. What we're doing is we're doing a box for each one. We mixed way too much epoxy. That cup already set up. This stuff is all fine, of course, but the cup that we had it in is already gone. We mixed 100 milliliters. We're going to have to mix more like 25 or 20. It sets up too fast, and it's not even that hot yet, but it's warm enough. All right, well, we have the first two squares in now, gluing away, but we've run into a bit of a conundrum here. The conundrum is this is where the western red cedar planks go across that are going to support our mast, but the plans that we're looking at don't really show the western red cedar. They show foam, and I know it's western red cedar. Now, there's more than one plan, so the second set of plans do show the western red cedar, but the two parts of the plans aren't in agreement. And we don't want to proceed on something that the plans are disagreeing on. They're called A1 plans and A3s, and they're not showing the same thing. So I'm going to meet with Schionning tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss for this particular boat's build, because the problem with the A3s is that they're more generic for a lot of the Schionning boats, and so the specifics to our boat, I need to go over with them on this. So that's not going to stop us, though, because we're going to move on down to further down and come back towards this area, and that way we can keep working, and then tomorrow I'll meet with Schionning and get the answers I need. As you can see, we got maybe 50% of the webs done, maybe a little less than that because we haven't done the cross pieces in the two areas where the western red cedar goes across and some other beams go across. So about 40%, but we did that in one day. And so after the holiday, come Monday, we'll do, in one day we should get the other half of this, so the entire web should be here, and then we just have to do the crossing pieces, the 6 of those, and put the ends on. There's 2 pieces that go on down the ends here. And at that point, we're ready to start putting our dummy coves in. As you can see, this is the idea is that there's the plastic down here, and now we can just put dummy coves down from the top, where it's really easy to make them nice. Take our rounding tool and make these coves beautiful, so that once this all sets up and we peel it off the plastic, we're going to have a very nice, much nicer than when we did underneath of that wood for the engine compartment. These will be very, very clean and nice. And then there's a little bit of glassing on the corners that we'll have to do. That'll take 2-3 days probably to glass all the corners of these. Once that all sets up, this will be very rigid, and we can pick this whole monster up and take it out so we can flip it over. And while it's out there, something Brian and I were just discussing is, this is where that bridge deck sits, and the 2 bus bars are going to be coming across from where the batteries are, about right here, and they'll stub out of this wall of the bridge deck about here. And from here, that'll take power up to the winch, power down to the electric motor. It'll all come off of these 2 bus bars that are coming across right here. And then we're going to stick a single conduit through the whole thing that will go across here as well, that'll take the loom from the helm over to a second set of throttles that we plan up there. And so we need that conduit to take that loom over there. And then there's also a loom that comes from the electric motor in the port side across to this electric motor in the starboard side, and that'll run through the same or a second conduit. We're not sure. We'll see how wide they need to be. So either run 1 or 2 conduits right next to the 2 bus bars. Now the bus bars and conduits have to be over just a little bit, because there's a drain system that goes in right in front of the door here, so that water ever gets in on the cockpit, it'll flow down through that big grate and just right through a hole and down and out of the boat. So that's all what's going to be going on in the floor here. So we're going to have to build that grate in to the floor before we seal it up, and the conduits and the bus bars. But one thing we noticed is we can't put the bus bars in here because there's a boat in the way. But that's okay, because once this whole web is done, we're going to take it out to flip it over. And when we take it out, we'll put the bus bars in before we bring it back, flip it over and bring it back in again. So that'll all be fine. And the Admiral and I are going to have a big meeting, because there's some small design issues on the plans that Schionning just has to explain. I just can't figure it out from the plan. So they'll tell me what they want me to do for that, and I'll share it with you at that point. Since we're starting on the bridge deck right now, and that has a lot to do with the comfortable areas of the boat, I thought it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about why we're building this model and what makes the Solitaire 1520 the boat that we want to sail around the world.
When looking at catamarans, there are 2 basic categories: performance and comfort. And every catamaran falls somewhere on the line between one built only for performance or only built for comfort.
For comparison's sake, let's take a look at some of the more commonly sold catamarans in comparison to the Solitaire 1520. But that's not really going to be easy, because some of the catamarans that are more comfortable might also perform a little bit better. So what I did is I've made 2 different graphs, one to show a comparison of all of the comfort side, and another graph to show a comparison of the performance of this group of catamarans. But the main point of this isn't that I'm showing you these specific places where each of these catamarans land. You might reorder them in a different way yourself, but we want to get to the point where we're showing what, in comparison, where on that scale the 1520 lands compared to these other ones.
The performance aspect is easier to define, but there are many calculations necessary to get an accurate comparison.
For simplicity's sake, I'm going to use the sail area versus displacement number that each catamaran has to compare their performance. Now that isn't really all that accurate because there's many other things that go into performance besides just that number. But it's good enough right now to at least get a list and see about where the 1520 lands amongst all these other ones.
We'll separate the catamarans on this list by one other factor: mini keels versus dagger boards.
And that's because the cats with dagger boards are going to be a little bit faster regardless of sail area versus displacement. So we're just going to bump them all up just a little bit in the performance scale.
So here's our chart.
Now all the boats you're looking at here are all around the same water length as the Solitaire 1520, as close as a model as they had. And it goes from the Lagoon 51 through the Nautic 48. Those are all mini keel boats. And generally these boats are mostly in the comfort category. And then you have from our Solitaire 1520 up to the Orc 50, these are all boats with dagger boards and lean towards the performance type of boat. Now as you can see, the Solitaire 1520 is at the lowest end scale of the performance boats. All the other boats in this list are faster based on the sail area and the displacement of the boat and the fact that they all have dagger boards. But the 1520 lands in the middle of all the boats. If we look at from the comfort side to the performance side as a continuous scale there, it falls in the middle of them as far as performance goes.
Now here's our chart for the same list of catamarans and where they each compare in a comfort rating. This is far more subjective than the performance chart, but here are some of the things we took into account: load carrying capacity, bridge deck clearance, living space in the cabins and heads, as well as the salon and cockpit. We also looked at the helm layout, any extra seating areas like on the cabin top or in the bow. After comparing all that, we assigned a value for comfort, and this is where each of these cats landed. You'll notice that the Solitaire 1520 lands a little to the right of center, meaning this design is a little less comfortable than, say, the HH50, yet the 1520 is still somewhat centered among the boats. We think our cat is more comfortable than all of the rest of the daggerboard boats. So, if the HH50 is more comfortable and faster than the 1520, well, that came down to price. The HH50 is more than $1 million more expensive than the Solitaire 1520, even if the 1520 is professionally built for you. But back to the two charts. Looking at them side by side, you can see that the Solitaire 1520 is fairly centered between the performance cats and the comfort cats in both performance and comfort, which is just what we were looking for in a catamaran. Other cat sailors may prefer their catamaran to lean further toward performance or comfort, but like the Goldilocks fable, we like our porridge not too hot and not too cold, but just right.
This is just what we wanted.
Our goal is to sail around the world, and that means a lot more time open water sailing and less time on the hook.
So we wanted a cat that was comfortable, but on the other hand, could still make ocean passages and any long passage quite a bit quicker. And the thing is we're going to be sailing in the trade winds a lot. And as we go around the world, and those are blowing at 15 knots on average. And if our boat will do 2/3 of wind speed, which this boat will, we could be sailing at 10 knots in 15 knots of wind, and that's pretty much what we want, because anything faster than that is just too hard on the boat and on the crew. And so that's plenty fast for what we need. On the other hand, once we do reach our destination and we're at anchor, we're going to have all that comfortable area of the big salon and cockpit to have a good living space in. So we feel that this model is the perfect compromise between those two different things, comfort and speed.
Where we gave up some comfort was in the hulls. We kept them narrow, but that means giving up some space in the cabins and the heads.
Right, so that was our compromise. We we're going to get a quick catamaran, but not a speed demon. And we're going to be very comfortable up in the salon area, but not down in the hulls where we're going to have small heads and small cabins with just a bed basically in a very small areas in there. But our compromise was to have the performance hulls, but the upper decks would be our comfort catamaran. Another thing that we won't have is seating up on the cockpit roof or seating up at the bow where the trampolines are. Those are just two things we had to compromise on.
So we think the Solitaire 1520 is the perfect combination of performance and comfort for a circumnavigating catamaran, but that is just our opinion.
Right. Other people are going to put their little line in the sand somewhere else along that scale between comfort and performance, and not everybody's the same. This just happens to be what we think is perfect for our voyage around the world.
The good news is they can buy the boat that best suits their needs and desires.
Which is exactly what I did when I created the concept for the 1520, which Schionning turned into the design of this boat. So at this point, we're now building the boat we want, our dream catamaran, and we're very excited to keep working on her.
Thank you for watching this week's video and spending a little bit of time with us. We very much appreciate all you viewers, and in particular, we appreciate the patrons, which are listed here. Thank you to all of you as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
Right, which is going to be continuing work on the Bridgedeck, and we're going to get the other half of this on, all the webbing up on there. And then we've got some really interesting stuff that I want to go over next week with you, because I had a big meeting with Schionning about specific things that we're going to have to do different than what they originally thought for building this Bridgedeck. And so there's quite a few changes, and I'll go over why we had to make those changes and what they are and all that stuff next week. So we'll see you then.
Bye.